King crab. A premium dish or just a sophisticated trick to take your money? Have you ever wondered why king crab has become a luxury dish, even though sometimes the quality isn't what you think? Is the king crab market being manipulated by substitution tricks, causing consumers to pay for deception? In the US, king crab is a symbol of luxury and quality, but behind that is a market riddled with tricks. The story doesn't just stop at the crab claws. It also involves the entire supply chain, luxury restaurants, and consumer trust. We will delve into each link in this chain to understand who suffers losses, who benefits, and how you, king crab lovers, can avoid being deceived. There are secrets behind the name king crab that only when discovered will you realize how you've been fooled. Join us to explore the secrets and challenges in the world of king crab in the US. First, let's look at the real king crabs from Alaska. This is not just a food source, but also a symbol of scarcity and value. Alaskan king crab is considered one of the most premium seafoods in the world, famous for its sweet, firm meat and unique flavor that only crabs living in the cold waters of Alaska can provide. However, to be able to own a real king crab, we need to clearly understand the arduous journey it goes through. King crabs are caught in cold, remote seas, and this process is not easy at all. Fishermen face harsh weather conditions, with blizzards, large waves, and temperatures dropping to levels that can damage equipment or endanger lives. In addition, strict quota regulations are imposed to protect natural resources. Therefore, only a small amount of king crab is allowed to be caught each year, making the search and harvest an extremely difficult task. This explains why Alaskan king crab has such a staggering price. It is not just a seafood product, but a gift from nature, carrying an irreplaceable value. However, even with such high value, the market is flooded with fakes. Do you really think you are enjoying the premium king crab you paid for? Sometimes, the crab legs you enjoy do not come from Alaska, but from a completely different place, from remote seas with no comparable reputation or quality. So, can this really happen? How do we know if we are eating real crab or just a market trick? The answer might surprise you. These fake king crabs can come from other seas, or even from other types of crab with similar appearances, but completely different qualities. It's hard to believe that a luxury dish can be replaced by a low-quality product, isn't it? And the appearance of fakes in the king crab market is not accidental. It is the result of a lack of transparency and sophisticated substitution tactics, things that consumers rarely suspect. Before the US imposed an import ban on crab from Russia in 2022, nearly 80% of the king crab supply came from Russia. But after the ban was implemented, instead of disappearing, king crab still appeared on the market. So, where do these crabs really come from? The answer lies in indirect export routes, where the crabs are disguised under new labels to return to the US market. This is not just a violation of international trade regulations, but also a blatant lie to consumers. You think you are paying for the rarity of Alaska, but in reality, it might be a product of much lower value, possibly even not meeting quality and safety standards. Furthermore, the issue of label fraud also occurs even after king crab has been imported into the US. Many small businesses and large suppliers face the problem of king crab being labeled as Alaskan, but actually coming from the Russian Far East, or worse, from substandard factories. You're probably wondering, how can a crab look so similar, even though the origin is completely different? This is what paves the way for substitution tricks, raising selling prices without any oversight. A crab labeled as Alaskan can come from other seas, and you will still be charged as if it were a luxury dish. The next question is, do you really know what you are eating? Real king crab, or just a low-quality dish mixed into the supply chain? The tricks in the supply chain don't stop at import. On the journey from the port to the restaurant, real king crab can be mixed with cheap rock crab, a type of crab with a similar appearance but significantly lower quality. Just imagine, you spend a large amount of money to enjoy the famous king crab dish, but what you receive is a type of crab with mushier meat and a blander flavor. Would you be able to tell the difference when it has been elaborately prepared in a luxury restaurant? And by the time it reaches consumers, the product has been frozen, processed, and carefully packaged to the point where you can hardly tell if it is real king crab or not. This not only damages consumer trust, but also undermines the reputation of restaurants and distributors. Who will take responsibility for this lack of transparency? One of the underlying reasons leading to this situation is the lack of transparency and laxity in the inspection and supervision system. Many imported seafood shipments are not rigorously checked for origin and quality. This creates loopholes for fraudsters to exploit, mixing low-quality goods into the market. When inspection standards are not strong enough, consumers become unwitting victims. We are paying for trust, but that trust is being eroded by the irresponsibility of a part of the industry. And while legitimate distributors and importers face unfair competition from those using tricks, have you ever wondered if you are overpaying for an unworthy product? This not only affects the reputation of the market, but also erodes consumer trust in a dish once considered the king of the sea. So the question is there a way to restore trust in king crab, protect consumers, and ensure that the crabs we enjoy are truly authentic king crabs? That is a big question, and the solution requires not only the involvement of the authorities, but also transparency and responsibility from distributors and consumers. This story is not over, and if you think you know everything, wait until you discover the real secrets that are happening behind the screen. As a result, consumers pay dearly for unworthy products. They think they are enjoying a premium specialty, but in reality, it is just a low-quality dish. It's a major scam in the seafood industry, where consumers simply cannot distinguish between real and fake king crab. But do you think that's all you have to face when buying king crab? Certainly not. These tricks not only harm consumers, but also have a profound impact on the entire industry and the natural environment.
It's crab.
The impact of non-transparent import and mislabeling has spread unexpectedly. When fraud cases are discovered, consumer trust in king crab labels drops sharply. They become more vigilant with all seafood products, and the price to pay is not just money, but eroded trust. So what does this mean for the seafood industry? The answer is simple: great pressure. This industry is not only affected by high prices, but also by the loss of customer trust. Do you think that one loss of trust will make consumers come back? Certainly not. A bad experience can cause customers to leave for a long time. Alaskan fishermen, who have spent years living at sea, enduring harsh conditions to catch real king crab, are also heavily affected by unfair competition. These scams have caused a significant drop in crab prices. But did you know that behind every fake crab on the market is a fisherman's family struggling to maintain their traditional livelihood? This has caused many families to abandon the profession they have maintained for generations. Facing the influx of cheap crab from elsewhere flooding the market, Alaskan fishermen no longer have a chance to survive, and the true value of king crab is being lost. Behind these tricks, loopholes in import monitoring and management are creating conditions for unsustainable exploitation in other regions. When demand increases without strict supervision, operators abroad can take advantage of the situation to overfish, harming natural king crab populations. Do you realize that the crab you eat might be contributing to the destruction of the natural environment? This is an issue that cannot be taken lightly when the seafood exploitation industry and marine resource protection are facing a serious imbalance. The U.S. control system also faces difficulties in determining the true origin of the product. Regulatory agencies have to deal with a complex supply chain, from international intermediaries to domestic processing and distribution facilities. And did you know that each real king crab product may have to go through dozens of intermediaries before reaching consumers? This not only creates difficulties in control, but also makes quality verification almost impossible. So how do we know what we are really eating? To restore trust, stricter measures are needed to ensure that labels accurately reflect the origin and fishing process. And do you think that only domestic policies can solve this problem? No. The solution requires close cooperation between countries and environmental organizations. This not only requires a more comprehensive view of seafood management, but also strong support from governments and natural resource protection organizations. Can we change this system so that consumers don't have to continue paying for errors in the supply chain? Perhaps, but this will not be easy and will require strong involvement from many parties. First, supply chain transparency is key. Imagine, with just a QR code scan on the packaging, you could clearly know where this king crab was caught, at what time, and what processing it underwent. Blockchain technology can also play an important role in ensuring the integrity of information, making counterfeiting extremely difficult. Next, a strict inspection and supervision system is indispensable. We need to increase the frequency and quality of inspections of imported seafood shipments, especially king crab. Establishing independent laboratories, using advanced scientific methods such as DNA testing, will help accurately determine the species and origin of the crab, exposing any fraudulent practices. However, efforts from authorities alone are not enough. Consumers themselves also need to be equipped with knowledge to become informed buyers. Communication campaigns need to be stepped up, helping people recognize real king crab from fakes, what signs indicate fraud, and why choosing products with clear origins is so important. And we also cannot abandon those who do honest business. Strong support is needed for Alaskan fishermen and reputable distributors, creating favorable conditions and financial support so that they can compete fairly with cheap products of unclear origin. At the same time, encourage and promote king crab products with clear origin certifications so that consumers can choose with peace of mind. Finally, this is not just a problem for one country alone. Close international cooperation is needed. Seafood exporting countries need to jointly establish common standards for traceability and quality control. Sharing information and coordinating efforts to combat commercial fraud will create a more transparent and sustainable market for all. These are not far-fetched solutions. They are entirely practical and feasible if there is determination and coordination from all parties. Every crab leg you hold in your hand has a story behind it. Next time, ask yourself, is it real king crab or just a product of a market full of tricks? Leave a comment about your experience and share your king crab stories. Your opinion can help us better understand how to protect consumers and maintain sustainability in the seafood industry.